Good morning, students. Welcome to classes on economics of capital market. Today, we will be discussing about difference between preference shares and equity shares. In this video, we will be discussing about 6 important difference between preference shares and equity shares. First basis of distinction is rate of dividend. Preference shares get a fixed rate of dividend, whereas the dividend on equity shares may vary from one year to another. Dividend on equity shares depends upon the profit of the company. If the company is making high profit, then equity shareholders will get high dividend. And if the company is incurring a loss, then equity shareholders may not receive any dividend. And if company is making a low profit, then equity shareholders will receive only low dividend. So, preference shareholders get a fixed rate of dividend, whereas dividends on equity shares vary from year to year. Second basis of distinction is arrear of dividend. We have already discussed about different types of preference shares. One of them is cumulated preference shares. So cumulated preference shares have a right to receive arrears of dividend. So we can say that preference shares have right to receive arrears of dividend, whereas equity shares have no right to receive arrears of dividend. So in case of cumulated preference shares, arrears of dividend get accumulated, whereas equity shares, in case of equity shares, no arrears are accumulated or accumulated. Next basis of distinction is preferential right. So preference shares have a preferential right over equity shares. When dividends are paid, preference shares are paid before making dividend payments to equity shares. So preference shares have got preferential right over equity shares, whereas equity shares have no preferential right. The dividend of equity shares are paid at last. Next basis of distinction is winding up. Preference shares have a right to return of capital before equity shares. So, even in the time of winding up, preference shares have got a preferential right. At the time of winding up, preference shares should be paid before equity capital is paid. So, equity capital is paid only when preference share capital is paid fully. So even at the time of winding up, preference shares have preferential right over equity shares. So this means that preference shares are safer compared to equity shares. Next basis of distinction is voting right. Preference shares have no voting right because they are not the owners of the company. They have no voting rights, whereas the equity shares have voting rights. Another important basis of distinction is right to participate in management. Preference shares have no right to participate in management, whereas equity shares have right to participate in the management of the company because equity shareholders are the owners of the company and they have right to participate in the management of the company. So here we were discussing about the basic difference between preference shares and equity shares. So preference shares and equity shares have mainly 6 difference. They differ on the basis of rate of dividend, arrears of dividend, preferential rights, winding up, voting rights, and participation, right to participate in management. So these are the 6 major difference between preference shares and equity shares. Hope you understood. Thank you.